So as I attempt to get into a more strict, regular upload schedule that will be better for my mental health, we're going to talk about Saw, and the new Saw, and the franchise at large.
Hello, Detective Banks. Do you know where your officers are?
Spiral from the Book of Saw, also known as No One Will Take Us Seriously If We Just Call This Saw 9, also known as Jigsaw Says ACAB. The Saw franchise is a long and convoluted one. It's been spanning almost 2 full decades at this point, and it takes us on a roller coaster of quality, stupidity, and one single constant, that being buckets and buckets of blood and gore. I rewatched the first film in preparation for Spiral, and honestly, it holds up pretty well. It's also kind of massively underappreciated and overshadowed by what the franchise turned into. The first Saw, directed by James Wan and written by Leigh Whannell, holds up really well. It's a fantastic psychological thriller / police procedural. It's low budget as hell, but the expertise of Wan and Whannell in how they craft the movie, in how they choose to deliver information, in how they carefully choose what to show you and what not, and what to leave up to the imagination. All those things hide that low budget really damn well. And it's just kind of a really well put together indie horror film that could only work if it's made by 2 people who gel really well behind the scenes. Even the gore, something the franchise became known for and spawned an entire genre of torture porn, god I hate that term, is pretty restrained in the original Saw. The goriest shots are just still crime scene photos, and the more grisly elements, the infamous hacksaw to the foot, that's like mostly off screen. The actuality is there's a little bit of blood and a lot of reaction shots, but it's impactful as hell, and it ended up creating a franchise that spawned 8 more films. Sure, it's dated by the mid-2000s brand of editing with speed ramps galore and a bunch of fast, wobbly cuts. The entire thing has a sickly green-blue filter over it, and it makes it look kind of gross, and these things, arguably the weakest elements of the film, the elements that were there to hide the film's low budget and felt charming as a result, are what became a staple of the franchise. Saw is legitimately kind of awesome and holds up really well even now. It's thought-provoking and underrated, and ends up overshadowed by the schlocky, insane, gore-for-entertainment value content that came after. And this franchise became what it did as a result of the man who made Saws 2 through 4, Darren Lynn Bousman, turning an already existing script of his into Saw 2, making a film that is significantly less interesting than the first, turning the entire focus of the movie into the traps. That's now the selling point. The story, while I can't say it was ignored, began to become so convoluted and so insane that it just started becoming more confusing and comical than actually interesting. There are some good things to be said about Saw 3, but only about half of it, the Jigsaw and Amanda half of the story. The rest of the stuff with Jeff is really boring to me. And then, Saw 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and Jigsaw, the quality just the whole time. Now, post-Jigsaw, I was about done with the franchise. From a logical perspective, that movie just kind of shit all over the canon anyway, and everything was just stupid. But then it came out that Chris Rock was pitching and producing a reboot of the Saw series. Yes, that Chris Rock. And that, in and of itself, is intriguing. Then the trailer dropped, and the trailer, along with the title Spiral from the Book of Saw, implied that this wasn't really a sequel, but more of a spin-off, with the main link being a Jigsaw copycat, but with the tone of something more like 7. Darren Lynn Bousman was attached once again as director, so my optimism was cautious. And it's another Saw movie. It's just another Saw movie. There is no reason that this couldn't have just been called Saw 9, other than the fact that it would probably have been taken less seriously. Spiral from the Book of Saw stars Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson, and Christopher Abbott. It tells the story of Detective Zeke Banks, the one good cop in a department full of corrupt pieces of shit, and his distrust of his own colleagues, what that means for him, and how it ties into an investigation into a new Jigsaw copycat that seems to have direct relations to his personal life. As far as Saw films go, I will say that this is probably the best after the original, in my opinion. It's incredibly well produced, fantastic sound design, great production design. Setting of all of this happening in an inner-city police department makes the entire story feel a lot grander in scale than the previous films did. Chris Rock's character is one of the most interesting parts of this movie. He's a good cop in that he actually wants to protect and serve, and wants to weed out the corruption in his own department. The problem is, his department is so corrupt and so awful to the point where he and his rookie partner are pretty much the only one with any morals at all. And he's become incredibly cynical and jaded as a result, and he's kind of an asshole. The film is much more akin to a crime drama like Seven when it's centering itself on the characters. There's a lot of discussion of police brutality and corruption and the idea of the bullshit thin blue line through the eyes of a black detective who has seen how fucked up the system is and has suffered as a result of it and wants to change it. And at those points, this movie feels like it's trying to be about something, and I love that. Unfortunately, it still has to be a Saw film for some reason, and it decides to take the dumbest elements of the franchise, the speed-ramped editing, the flashbacks for the sake of dumb twists, the gore for entertainment value, that go beyond any semblance of logic and realism, and throw them into a gritty police drama. And those things don't work together. They don't. And the result is this tonally inconsistent film that is half legitimately good, half dumb fun, but wants to be both and can't commit to either. The lower budget elements that felt charming in the lower budget films feel really out of place here now because this movie has a big budget, but it's still doing cheap, bad looking editing tricks. And when you pair bad speed ramp editing and crazy over-the-top gore with a gritty police drama that seems to be going for more realism, it's just odd, and it feels very at odds with each other. All of it leads to your usual Saw-style twist ending, and maybe it's because I've seen the rest of the franchise at this point, so I know what to expect. But the way that this film presents key bits of information around the halfway point of the film, it is incredibly obvious who the Jigsaw copycat is, and if you've seen any films in this franchise or anything like this franchise, you'll be able to predict it from a mile away. I may not be able to call this movie good, per se. It's just another Saw film, but it's certainly more entertaining than the rest, and it's at least trying to be about something. It is better than I expected it to be with Darren Lynn Bousman at the helm. Is it the best in the franchise? No. But it's certainly the most thought-provoking in the franchise after the first one, and it's bringing some new material to the table, even if it's not committing wholeheartedly to it. And I suppose I need to commend it on the merit of at least trying to be about something, which is more than I can say for most of the other Saw films at this point. I'm going to say that Spiral is good for fans of the Saw franchise. If you want a grittier, realistic take on Saw that's actually taking the themes and trying to be about something, half of this movie is for you. But if you just want fun, dumb, entertainment value gore with a little more substance than usual, or you just want to see a bunch of corrupt cops get murdered, you might have fun with this. I think it's at least worth a one-time viewing. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, click down there, like, comment, subscribe. There's a Patreon link down in the description if you want to donate to this channel, help us grow, make new, better quality content for you all to enjoy. Like I said, I am trying to get on a more regular upload schedule now, so stay tuned for that. That means less videos, but more quality content, if that makes sense. If any of that interests you, please consider donating. I would really appreciate it, but even if you don't, thank you so much for watching anyway, and I will see you all very soon.
Hello, Detective Banks. When was the last time you saw your father?